vitamin capsule in the form of a fruit. So it has over 21 essential minerals, some things like zinc, calcium, chromium, magnesium, potassium, 18 amino acids. It's substantial amounts of vitamin B1, B3, and vitamin C. So we all know our B vitamins help with mood, and they're really important. Vitamin C is really good for our immune system. So it is actually the highest known whole food source of vitamin B1 and B3. So a few of the like the minerals that are in there and why those are so important. So zinc is instrumental in the formation of what they call SOD, and it's a key enzymatic antioxidant that declines with age. So SOD is responsible for deactivating superoxide, which is one of the most prevalent free radicals in the body. So that's important. We want to make sure that we have healthy levels of zinc so that it can help to produce that SOD. Magnesium's been shown to reduce risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. It's also effective against depression and headaches. Potassium lowers blood pressure, and it's also essential for normal electrolyte and pH balance within the cells. So having good levels of potassium is really important to our overall health as well. So that's a plus. It also has a lot of fiber, so over 21% fiber by weight. So it helps speed up the intestinal flow, minimizing exposure to harmful substances. So we all know that having a healthy amount of fiber in our diet is really important. It makes sense. We want our digestive systems to be working as well as possible so that we're moving those harmful chemicals and toxins through our body as quickly as we can. So, can you eat 100 oranges, 814 blueberries, 22 medium carrots, almost 11 pounds of spinach, 59 broccoli florets, 73 medium strawberries, and 93 apples? Probably not. So instead, you could drink 1 ounce of Ningxia Red. So I find this is a super powerful slide to just kind of show just how much nutrients is packed into that 1 ounce of Ningxia Red that we can take every day. So the antioxidants in Ningxia Red are off the charts high. In fact, when they tested the Ningxia wolfberry, it was the highest known antioxidant whole food. So it is one of the most powerful antioxidants on the planet. And antioxidants, when I first started sharing, I used to have the 2 packages in the kit, and I would say, you know, this is the Ningxia Red, it's super high in antioxidant, and that was kind of all I ever said. It was all I knew about the Ningxia Red. And I didn't even really understand what antioxidant meant. So once I started reading the book and looking into it a little bit, I realized that antioxidants actually help to destroy and combat free radicals in our body. So free radicals are things that are going to cause damage to your cells, to your organs, that cause disease, big and small. So we want antioxidants in our body. That's extremely important. It also, the Ningxia wolfberry also helps your heart. It reduces serum triglycerides and cholesterol. It reduces inflammation, and it slows oxidative damage. It's really good for your vision. It's got a significant source of carotenoids. So it also helps protect against free radical damage, which leads to eye disease. So a lot of diseases that lead to blindness or eye disease are caused by free radical damage. So again, that high level of antioxidant is really important for our vision health. Helps boost your mood. So as I mentioned, those vitamin Bs, that vitamin B1, B3, they're really great for helping to sustain a boost to your mood. It also, Ningxia Red has 4 citrus essential oils in them, and those are also really good for improving your mood. And the other thing too that is pretty incredible is its support for our liver. Yum, exactly. So our liver detoxification ebbs with age or becomes overwhelming, or when it becomes overwhelmed, a rise in toxins, both natural and synthetic, occurs. So most of us have livers that are working overtime, just with the number of toxins that we're exposed to day, from natural toxins to synthetics. It's in our food, it's in our air, it's all over the place. So for a lot of us, our livers are working overtime to try and detoxify our system. So any help that we can give it is important. So as the most powerful antioxidant, the Ningxia wolfberry has significant liver protecting properties. But one really cool thing is that it also has unique phytochemicals, which help amplify the liver's detoxification powers. So not only is it helping to support your liver, but it's actually amplifying its detoxification powers. So that's huge. So that, with the antioxidants and all of those amazing things that you're getting for your heart, for your overall health, your vision, your cholesterol, it's also helped a lot of people. You'll probably hear some testimonies tonight for iron as well, because it has the essential oils in it. It helps with bioavailability. All of Young Living's supplements, including Ningxia Red, have essential oils, mostly for that reason, because it helps to bring the nutrients into our cells. So that's also really important. And it also contains polysaccharides that help boost immunity. So in the Ningxia Red, it has blueberries in there as well, and it has pomegranate. I believe cherries maybe is the other one, or plum. So all of those are superfruits as well, and superfoods in their own right. So they're all combined with the Ningxia wolfberry, and then it has those 4 citrus essential oils that I mentioned, which citrus are super high in limonene. And the limonene comes from the rind of the fruit, and we all know that our citrus essential oils are cold compressed from the rind of the citrus fruit. So you're getting really, really high limonene levels in those essential oils that are also in your Ningxia Red that you're taking every day. So this is just a slide that I found that tells you some of the pretty amazing things that limonene can do for us. And then I came across this slide and I thought that was pretty potent. It kind of hit a chord for me. So every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or fighting it. So Ningxia Red is an easy way to incorporate some pretty amazing nutrients and benefits into your day-to-day. So like I said, I mean, it was always a staple in our home before, but it is that one product that if I could only choose one thing that Young Living had, it would be Ningxia Red, hands down. We don't run out of Ningxia Red. If we do, we're calling our friends. So yeah, so I usually have, hopefully I didn't talk too fast or bombard everybody. If I did and you missed something, by all means, message me later and I can give you the information, but that's my little tidbits.
Thank you so much.
Oh, look, and I did it before my phone died.
Yay. Can you unshare your screen now?
Yes.
Or stop sharing, not unshare. Thank you. That is such good information. I think we all need those nuts and bolts to really understand what this can do for us. And now you're going to hear, oh, look at that. Now you're going to hear all of the testimonies. I'm going to stop that. Okay, so next up we have Tanis, and all of our speakers today have phenomenal testimonies. So you're going to be wowed. Maybe grab a tissue. But I'm so excited to hear from all of you. And Tanis is up next. Welcome, Tanis. Thank you for speaking today. You got yourself unmuted.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me. So my name's Tanis. I'm from Calgary. I've always been known as very outgoing and a happy person. I was a marathon runner. I did yoga daily. And not only did I have a lust for life, but a lust for travel as well. So when my youngest, I was a single mom with 5 kids. When my youngest turned 20, I thought I'd sort of be off the hook for parenting and I could travel the world. So I'd always been fascinated with Nepal and Mount Everest. So that was first on my list, and I just continued to travel and travel. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Tibet. I wanted to see Mount Everest on the other side. So I booked my trip, and right from the time I got off the plane from Lhasa, my oxygen levels were quite low. So they never got above 77. And optimally, you want your oxygen levels between 94 to 100. So I didn't feel well right from the time I got there. So by the time I got to Everest Base Camp, I was really sick. My oxygen levels were in the 30s. I was having I thought I was having a stroke. Like I've been a migraine sufferer since the age of 7. But these were totally different headaches. It just felt like the whole back of my head was going to blow out. So they brought me down to lower ground, and it still wasn't helping. My oxygen levels came up slightly. I was on oxygen, and just even my breathing. And I trained as a medic. I'm a dental assistant instructor, and I've trained as a medic. And I just knew too much, that I knew that this wasn't good. So I went back home to Calgary, and the whole trip, and like I said, I've traveled all over the world. I love flying, and I was throwing up nonstop the whole trip home, and I knew something wasn't right. So I had gone to my doctor, kind of told her what had happened at Everest Base Camp, and she said, "Oh no, like you're fine. Like once you go down to lower ground, the altitude sickness goes away." But like I insisted that there's something wrong with my brain. And this went on. And then she started telling me that it was menopause. Like, we're menopausal women, and it's menopause. Take some vitamin B and it will help your headaches. So things just kept getting worse and worse. I was having flu-like symptoms. And then I started to think that I was maybe going crazy, and maybe this was menopause. And my quality of life was like just going down the hill, like really quickly. I wasn't able to go out with my children. Like even when they would come over, I could barely get out of bed. I was barely working. Just severe anxiety, and these like back of the head, like occipital headaches. I was always nauseous. So this went on for 1.5 years, and it was getting worse and worse. So I finally went to her colleague and said, something isn't right. This is what happened. I've always felt that something was wrong with my brain. I've been told for 1.5 years that it's menopause, and like I'm just not buying that. So the doctor agreed, and he thought that it was neck related, because it was all like my neck, shoulder, and back of my head. So he had suggested going on naproxen for a month just to see if that helped with anything. So I went on naproxen, it did nothing. So he said, okay, let's send you for a CT. So it took 5 months to get in for a CT. They did a CT, and what they discovered is that I had something called Chiari's malformation, and they sent me for an MRI. So it was going to be another 6 months before I could get in for the MRI. And seriously, by that time, I had like numbness down my face, down my arm. And like I was having daily suicidal thoughts. Like I was in so much pain. I was getting so depressed. And like I just thought, like I have 5 kids. Like I just cannot do that to them. So it was going to be 6 months before I could get in for an MRI. And I thought, like, there's no way I'm going to make that 6 months. So luckily I had an angel looking out for me, and I got in for an MRI right away. And they discovered that my cerebellum was 8.5 millimeters into my spinal column, and I had a cyst. So that cyst is what was causing the numbness. So what happened at Everest Base Camp was I actually had a cerebral spinal fluid leak that had been just misdiagnosed this whole time. So I ended up having surgery. I had brain surgery on December 17th of last year, so 2019. So this was all within 2 months of my first CT. And after my surgery, about day 3, I was sort of coming around, and I could tell like this was just so much better. And I was told that the numbness would probably go away as the cyst went away, but I had symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome as well as fibromyalgia. So my head was healing nice. I had one true occipital headache about 5 weeks post-op. By 6 weeks post-op, I was no longer walking with my cane, but I just like still ached everywhere. Like it just felt like I was burning like down my spine into my fingertips. So I was getting probably about 15 to 23 migraines a month, and that was all part of the recovery. So I had seen a doctor in March. I had seen my surgeon, then COVID happened, and my symptoms were getting worse. I could barely get out of bed. Like I was just so hobbled up in pain in the morning. And I was able to do my lectures as a dental assistant online. So I could just barely even get downstairs to my living room to this spot to teach my classes. So they right away thought I had COVID. So I was tested twice. And why were my symptoms getting worse and worse? And then they did like a ton of tests. So they tested even like HIV, Lyme disease, everything. And the internist said, like, this is fibromyalgia. So I was really praying that that would go away as I was healing. So like I just, accepted like this is going to be my life. Like I just, dreamed like just being a runner to even have the energy to walk around the block. And I didn't even have that energy and was just so, sort of hobbled up in pain. And then a friend of mine had reached out to me. She knew my story. And she said, had you ever thought of trying Ningxia Red? And I said, no, but I'll give it a try. And that was the end of May. And I thought, I'm going to give it 3 months and really, have a feel for it. And day 13, I woke up and like I was happy. I got out of bed and I was like, whoa, like this is the old Tanis back. I hopped down the stairs instead of like hobbling down. I went downstairs. I started organizing our basement. I messaged my friend and said, let's start walking, because she was a runner with me. And she honestly thought we would barely probably make it around the block. And we walked 11 and a half kilometers. I've been doing that every second day. Yeah, I've been going to boot camp once a week. And, most of all, I'm myself again. I'm happy because for 2.5 years, like I was miserable, like being in pain all the time. And I just wasn't fun to be around. And now I'm totally back. So I'm just a huge advocate for Ningxia Red. Yes, I've started taking a couple of supplements. So I have been on a ton of medications, and I would take something for my migraines and never anything else. And I've been on antidepressant, anti-anxiety, heartburn medication from all the naproxen I've taken. Lyrica, I was on the maximum dose of Lyrica, and the only medication I'm taking right now is 75 milligrams of Lyrica at bedtime, just for the morning stiffness. But I had been taking the sulfurzymes. I started taking them about 2 months ago, and it said not to take at bedtime, but I have been taking it at bedtime just this last week, and it's been made a huge improvement in the morning. So I hope within the next couple of weeks to totally kick the Lyrica to the curb. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love your story. Seriously. Oh, I can't get enough of your story. Like when I first heard it, was a couple months ago, like crying. I'm so excited for you. Like I can't imagine how how many lives you're going to change just by your story. And I think I've said that before. Amazing. So happy for you. Who's crying already? Okay, next up, we are going to go to me. Oh yeah, I'm next. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my pregnancies, because I had 3 kids before Emerson. Now I have 4, and it has changed my life in so many ways. So prior to Young Living, 3 babies, 3 pregnancies, and none of them were easy at all. I know being pregnant just by itself is not an easy feat, because, you know, it's uncomfortable. But for me, I had something that they thought was hereditary, and it was a liver condition called cholestasis of pregnancy. And I guess supposedly my mom had it, and they had no idea what she had. So I went to 4 different doctors before they actually diagnosed me with this condition. And so what that does is actually your liver, from the hormones of pregnancy, it starts sending out the bile into your blood instead of through your digestive system. So it's really, really hazardous for you and your baby, and it can make you jaundice and have very high risk of hemorrhaging and a high risk of having a stillborn. So with all that being said, I didn't know I had that until I was 39 weeks with my first. And at that point, my eyes were yellow. I can't even explain to you the severe itching. When you think of your itchy skin, it's like that, but it's because it's in your blood. The bile was what was making me so itchy. And the more you scratch, the more blood gets to that area, which means the more itchy you get. Yeah, and I would be getting no sleep because I'd be clawing at my skin so much. Like if you go into like Facebook groups, you'll see people that just have like bruises and like scars because they scratch themselves so much. So anyways, they gave me a prescription at that time that dealt with the symptoms. I got induced. You're supposed to be induced at 37 weeks, no later than that. And I got induced at 39. And so going forward, next pregnancy, they watched me really carefully. The obstetrician said, like, you're lucky you had a live baby because you went way too far with like the test results that you got back. So they watched me really closely. And so what happened with every single one of my pregnancies as well was my placenta attached to my uterus. And then when they went to go take it out, I would start to hemorrhage. So, and this medication that they had put me on actually increased the risk of hemorrhaging, which I found out later on. So all of that being said, I was very, very high risk. And after I had my 3rd baby and they rushed me in for a D&C, and just like all of the issues, all of that, the doctor said at me when I was delivering my baby boy, she's like, this better be your last baby. Like she looked at me. I remember the look on her face. She just looked terrified, scared for me. And when your doctor looks scared, you're scared. So that was something we really thought heavily about as we were trying to have a baby for those past 5 years. So like, oh my gosh. Okay. So we went through this, like, yes, we want another baby. No, we don't. And then we finally decided we did. And then we tried for 5 years. In that time frame, of course, Young Living came into my life, and we tossed all the toxins and we got rid of all that stuff. And we brought in the supplements and Ningxia Red. And so what we know about Ningxia Red is really healthy for your liver, right? And when I finally got pregnant with Emerson, it was shocking, and amazing. And there's a whole thing that I did with that. Like we tried to get pregnant for 5 years. It didn't happen. And then I used some essential oils that got my hormones back on track, because as much as you get rid of the toxins, your hormones could still be out of whack, right? And so when we got pregnant, I was so nervous to have this condition again with my liver, and have to get on medication again, because, you know, as you toss out all of the toxins, you get really like aware of using over the counters and using all those things. So I was really hoping that I would not have to go on a medication for this condition, for this cholestasis. So 21 weeks along, and I think I was actually at Sparkling Hills when it first happened. No, it was a couple days before that. But I woke up in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden I was itchy. My hands and feet is what gets you first. And I just broke down in tears, and I was crying. I had like full out anxiety, because now I just imagined the rest of my pregnancy, I was going to be trying to fight the doctors of giving me this medication, but also keeping my baby safe and healthy. So I just didn't know what to do. And, you know, thinking like, oh my gosh, I've tossed all the toxins. Like, what else can I do? So I amped up my Ningxia Red. I drank way more than I ever have. And being pregnant, I was already drinking a lot. So I was going through about a bottle a day just to see if I could make more of a difference with my liver. And it was within 3 days of drinking a whole lot of Ningxia Red, and the symptoms disappeared. I also used a combination of oils, which are really healthy for your liver. And the doctors went and tested me because I said, like, I have cholestasis again. You need to test me. But my enzymes, like all the tests completely showed that I didn't have it. So they're like, no, you don't. It's in your head. Like, you don't have it. And I was like, awesome. Okay. So doctors don't believe me. I turned off the switch. My liver is working perfectly, because of course it was like a few days later when I got my appointment and all that, but my liver was completely normal. And then again, at 32 weeks, I went through a little bit of a stressful few days and my liver went nuts. I did the same thing, increased my Ningxia Red and used the same oil, and boom. It was like a day and a half later, no more itching, didn't have to go on medication. I cannot tell you, like, the doctors were still really scared because I had all these issues with hemorrhaging. I hemorrhaged with my daughter so badly that they were like this close to giving me a blood transfusion, and all of that. So they were going to have me on 2 IVs. They had blood on hand in case I was going to hemorrhage. And they said, you know, because of your age and all these things, you have all of this against you. And I had to be on have an epidural like right away as soon as I was in there, because they wanted to manage everything. They wanted to like be totally in control. There's no chance of me having an at-home birth for sure. But I can tell you, this was absolutely the best pregnancy, the best birth that I have ever had. They were like, had all the stops out, and I did not need any blood transfusions. My birth went completely perfect. My placenta came out very easily. Baby latched right on. She was able to just lay on my chest right away, and I've never been able to have that because they were so worried, because they just look so jaundiced and kind of like just, you know, like tired when they get out because they're so drained. And oh my gosh, to not have to deal with any of that and not wake up in the middle of the night just clawing and scratching at myself just to be able to enjoy this last pregnancy, I can't even tell you. Like, the joy that brings to me, and my baby is so healthy, and she's the calmest, happiest baby you would ever meet. I never had that with my other babies. They were so, like, they screamed nonstop. They were so cranky. I have like the best 4th baby ever, and it's still like a big life adjustment because it's 9 years later after my other one. So I'm so grateful that she's easy, and oily babies are the best. If y'all haven't had an oily pregnancy, like, I recommend it. But Ningxia Red, it will change your life. Like, there is no way. The doctors did not believe that I had cholestasis. I was like, y'all, I have it under control. I got the things, I got the tools, and I know what my body needs. So yeah, I just can't even say enough. So that's a little bit of my story, and I know it's extreme, but if that's what it does for me, growing a human inside my body and fighting a condition that was hereditary, y'all, like, this is so good for you. You don't even know the goodness that it's doing inside your body, but I do, because I had like results, huge results. Okay, so next up, we are going to get Arlene on. Where are you, girl? Yay! Hi, Arlene.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Okay, so my story is actually about my mother. Her name is Liz, and I just have a little picture of her here. She is on the very end there, and she is 82 years old, and she has had macular degeneration for like half her life. I think she was around 40 when she got diagnosed with macular degeneration. so what happened was it keeps getting worse, right? That's what macular degeneration does. It doesn't turn around. It just keeps getting worse, or sometimes stays at the same level, but it never gets better, right? So so it was her right eye that was first affected. And after some time, she could no longer, I think it was about maybe 10 years, she could no longer read with her right eye. Like they have this little squiggly thing and it's these lines. And so what happens is they get all squiggly. And so she couldn't read with her right eye anymore. And so she learned to kind of like just shut it and read with her left eye. So she did that for like 30 years or whatever, that she would just read with one eye. And when her left eye started to get a little bit bad, she started to really look into nutrition for her eyes. So she was taking lutein, zeaxanthin, and fish oils and stuff. And so she was like trying her best, because she thought, oh man, if that eye goes, I am hooped, because she's an avid reader and Scrabble player. And I mean, everybody wants to keep their eyesight, of course, but for her, it was especially like she was getting quite scared. So for a number of years, like 30 years or whatever, she was able to maintain that with that one eye and read with that one eye. So then we started with Young Living, and I was reading different testimonies for all kinds of things, and I came across some ones about macular degeneration. And so I was like, hey mom, like looks like people are like getting improvement and stuff, like do you want to try it? So it was like within like her first month's order after she got her starter kit, we ordered the Ningxia. And my dad can be a little bit of a penny pincher, so she was only allowed to take 1 ounce a day of the Ningxia, but she did that faithfully. And so she did that, and she used frankincense around her eyes. And within 3 months, her vision improved, like for reading. So she was able to take off her glasses and like read a book without her glasses. So that was like pretty cool. And it was like, okay, well, this is going in a good direction, right? And so it was about 6 months in that she was actually noticing a bit of an improvement. And again, so when she would take this little chart, the lines were getting a little bit less squiggly. So she was seeing gradual improvements, and she was going to her regular checkups with her eye doctor and stuff, and they were noticing some improvements. And then it was about a year later, so a year and a half into it, so this would have been last fall, she came up to me and was like, Arlene, you won't believe it, I am reading with both my eyes again. Like, she didn't even realize she was doing it, and it was like, wow, I can read with both my eyes. So again, like gradual, but like she's steady. She did the frankincense every day, she did the Ningxia every day. And so one of the things about Ningxia is that it's really high in zeaxanthin. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but anyways, it's a carotenoid that's in there. And like, so you can see that scale, like it's super high. It's like the best source of it. And that's what really helps for macular degeneration. So yeah, so she just continued on, and she actually now takes 2 ounces a day. So she takes the little packages now, but it's continuing to get better to the point where, yeah, she can read with both eyes. The one eye that was worse, that she couldn't read with for years, the lines are a teensy bit squiggly still, so she still has a little bit of improvement to go, but the other eye is good. Like, so yeah, so that's a pretty incredible story, I think, because macular degeneration doesn't get better. So that was kind of proof. So yeah. So anyways, that's her story, and she's super happy about it.
Oh my gosh, this gives us all so much hope, not to like have like old eyes as we get older. Like, drink up your Ningxia Red.
Yes.
Sorry, were you done? Did I cut you off?
Yes.
Okay. That was so good. Thank you. Oh my gosh, who wants to drink more Ningxia Red? Like, eye health, better. Oh my gosh. Yes, please. Thank you, Arlene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Janine, you're up next. So good, yes. are you? There you are. Hi, Janine.
Hi, thank you for having me. These stories are so great. I feel like mine does not compare even, but I wanted to share today because in the beginning, I feel like I was a huge skeptic for Ninja Red. I didn't have any information. I didn't know about the book and stuff. And I mean, obviously there's a ton of information out there, but everybody was like, I love it. I just love it. And I can't live without it. And I was like, what's going on here? And I didn't really understand. And then there was the great Ningxia shortage of 2019 where they had to change some of the ingredients and stuff because of Health Canada, and people couldn't get it. And everybody was like going crazy. And I still didn't get it. I was like, they put something in here, or do they just have a whole bunch of it and they want us to buy it all? Or I was just like, I don't get it. And then I saw Tabitha's presentation that she did after she read the book. And there was just so much great information in your first video that you did about the Ningxia Red that my green brain was like, so I took it all in and I started taking Ningxia Red kind of on and off. And I was a new mom, and I've kind of always struggled with constipation, and I was pretty low energy. Even my husband would come home at the end of the day, and we had nothing left for the kids kind of at the end of the day. So I jumped on board fully when Jolene did her Ningxia Red challenge last year. So at the very beginning, everybody's nodding their heads. You guys all know you do the quiz at the beginning and at the end. To see how I viewed myself from the beginning to the end of that was something that blew my mind. Everything was just so much better. My mood, my digestion, the way that I viewed my body physically, everything was just like so much better. So after seeing that, I started sneaking the packages into my husband's lunch. When I was making his lunch, I'm like, here, just take these and see what happens, because he just said he had no energy at the end of the day, and he was so grumpy when he came home. And I'm like, I think that this will help your mood. So he takes that and the sulfurzyme now, which also has the wolfberry in it. Amazing supplement. I love it so much. So he takes both of those now, and he tells everybody that he knows that he is a totally different person. He feels 10 years younger, feels better than he did 10 years ago. And both of us we have so much more energy at the end of the day. We're always like out taking the kids for walks at the end of the day, and then that sort of stuff just wouldn't happen for us before. So, and also I asked if I could talk about poop. I'm sorry, I'm a new mom and my whole life revolves around poop, but I was constipated forever. And now it's just like so easy for us to go. So our whole family takes Ningxia Red every day. And my daughter also has bowel issues. And if, before, when we first kind of started taking it, if I ran out of it, there would be like 2 or 3 days where we didn't have it and it was coming in the mail. And my son did not have a bowel movement. And then I gave him our Ningxia Red at supper time, and in like 10 minutes, he was like poo explosion everywhere. So for me, I will never be without it again, because I don't even like, with all the traveling that we get to do and stuff like that too, if I stepped out of the house, my body was like in shutdown mode, and I was like, I'm not going to the bathroom anywhere ever unless it's my house. So yeah, I'm sorry, it was super quick, but I wanted to share how I did not believe it until I saw that that survey, and it blew my mind.
That's real life. Like, that's real life, right? Like, a lot of us are moms here. What are you talking about? Who is grumpy when they don't go to the bathroom? Like, hello.
They don't have their Ningxia.
Yes, drink some Ningxia. Like, I didn't notice any differences until I drank it every single day for 3 weeks, and that's when I noticed a difference. And if you still don't notice a difference, just stop for a week, and then you'll see, right? You might not go poop. It could happen. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, Janine. So real. It's real. And it made me cry. Okay, next up we have Melanie Jansen, and she's gonna wow us too. There
If
you
I
go.
can figure out how to unmute myself, maybe.
Hey, hi.
Oh my, how are you?
Good.
Oh my
How are
gosh,
you?
this is good. This is like so amazing. No, look, I know I gotta talk right now. My little guy's like, I'm on here the whole time and he comes and chooses to talk to me now. Of course, right? Mom life. Um, okay, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. It's probably been like 6 years now. 6 years ago, um, I had like some really crazy health issues going on. The doctor wasn't really too sure what was going on with me. I was super dizzy. I couldn't even get out of bed. The room would be spinning. I'd have to put my foot on the floor. I actually ended up going on medical leave for 9 months from my job at the high school. I was losing weight super fast. I was really nauseous all the time. I had no appetite. I was just totally discombobulated. My doctor was like, "Oh, it's depression. Here, take some antidepressants. You'll be fine." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. I will try them. But I need to like get these symptoms gone. Like I can't live like this." So I tried them, and they were the worst thing that I have ever done in my life. So I took myself off of them. Felt horrible, and I was like, okay, there's got to be like something different. And it was so crazy because in those 9 months, like things just started getting harder and harder and harder, and I couldn't get out of bed. I know that children can survive on Honey Nut Cheerios for breakfast, lunch, and supper for a really long time. And that's really bad because now I know what's in Honey Nut Cheerios. Yeah, don't eat them. But they're okay. And it was just getting debilitating. So of course, what happens when your quality of life is downhill, you do start getting depressed. And I started having anxiety attacks so badly, and I had never had them in my life before. I thought I was dying all the time. I couldn't breathe. My head would go all dizzy. I'd get tingly. I would throw up. I couldn't leave my house, and I was just so super scared all the time, and it was just getting worse. And like Tanis, I'm a single mom with 5 kids. Mine are still young though. Looking forward to those traveling years. But it was just so incredibly debilitating. And the same thing, right? Like I just started thinking, like, if this is the way life is, I can't live. Like I just don't want to live anymore. And I used to like pray to God every night, please don't wake me up in the morning. Like I do not want to be woken up, because it was so horrible. It was uncomfortable, and I was scared all the time. Nothing was working that I was trying, nothing. And then like anxiety kicks in, and you're like terrified of dying. So like at nighttime I'm praying not to wake up. In the morning I'm like praying that I'm alive, and I'm just like, okay, we can make it through another day. And you just do. And you lose everything. You lose your friends. You cut yourself off from family because you're in your head all the time trying to convince yourself that you're okay, that you're actually okay. At the end of my 9 months of medical leave, my benefits provider told me that I should be good enough to go back to work, and they cut off my benefits. And so I had to go back because I was the only source of income for my family. And I normalized a lot of really awful symptoms, and like things like I would be driving to work, and it just became so normal for me to just open my door and throw up. And just because I was scared and anxious, I could not have a conversation on the telephone without closing my eyes, because my brain just couldn't take all the information in to be able to concentrate. I'd have to shut my eyes, talk on the phone, and then even then I'd be lucky to be having like inputting any sort of conversation or giving any sort of good information back. So luckily I have a really good friend named Diane Parnell, and I was going to see her. She's like a health alternative natural healthcare practitioner. And I was like, I need you to just help me know that I'm going to be okay, that I'm not dying. I need to deal with all these crazy thoughts in my head. And so she did. We worked together for quite a while. And then she came to me one day and she said, you know, I have a friend who kind of deals with the same thing you're doing, with being anxious and scared all the time. And she actually started using this oil. Do you want to give it a try? And I was like, absolutely. So I did. I tried the oils and I said, like, what is that? Because that was the first time I had ever had space in my mind to have like a logical thought. Like, and it's so crazy, like for those of you that have anxiety, like it is so crazy because it is real. It is 100% real in your head, all the things that you're thinking. And I was driving down the hill here down to go to Enderby, and my ears plugged, and I was like, oh my gosh, my brain's like leaking out my ear. And okay, we all know that sounds pretty irrational, but my brain was like, no, this is the real deal. And I was like, okay, hang on, like I have this oil, and I put it on my wrist, put it on the back of my neck, and I was like, you know what, my brain might be leaking out of my ear, but we'll find out in 5 minutes for sure, and then we'll know if we have to go to the hospital. So it was the first time I had felt like any hope whatsoever. I asked Diane, I said, you know, like, what is this stuff? Like, I need to know more. And she said, well, Corey Deacon's doing a workshop in Kelowna. Do you want to come listen to him? So I did. I went and I listened to him talk about the oils and how it affects our brains. And I found out that he is a functional medicine doctor and a neuroscientist, and that he actually took clients. So I made an appointment with him, and he did the brain mapping on me, and he said, you know, you actually have an old brain injury, and it's affecting the visual processing part of your brain. Because at this point I had started losing my vision, and it was like it was really hard to explain. Like, you know, when you look through a screen of a window and there's like all those lines and you can't really focus on anything, and it's kind of choppy and stuff. It's kind of like that mixed with like raindrops on your windshield. So I probably should never have been driving, but I was too scared to tell my doctor because I'm like, I need to go to work, and oh my gosh. So when my vision started getting really, really bad, that's when like I thought, I'm done. I'm dying. I'm going blind, and I'm dying. So this appointment with Corey really helped me to understand what was happening. And as soon as he said it's a visual processing problem, I'm like, oh my gosh, because I had gone to eye specialists, and they told me, they're like, you have 20/20 vision. You're totally fine. And I'm like, I can't see nothing. And so Corey, you know, with the brain injury, I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. I'm like, hey, like, how do we move forward? What do I need to do? So he did do some work with me, but he also said, you know what, you're stuck in the faint or freeze mode, and you really need to do some self-care. He said, you have to look after yourself. And I'm like, okay. And when I left there, I phoned Diane, and I was so excited. I'm like, I'm actually not dying. Like, this is so cool. And I need to do self-care. Like, what should I do? What does that look like? And then she said, well, she said, somebody's having this class at the beach. And she's like, do you want to come? And I'm like, the beach? Sure, totally fine. So I went to the beach, and it was an oils class, and that is actually where I got my kit. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really super cool. So I started using the oils, and then I'm like, what are these 2 little packages in my kit? Like, what is this stuff? And Diane's like, you know, you need to drink it. Like, you need to drink it. So my anxiety was like through the roof, because anything I put into my body was certain that it was going to make me die. So I opened the pack of Ningxia, and I like took baby sips. It took me about an hour before I finished like half the package, because I like kept like scanning my body for anything weird happening. And I'm like, okay, I'm still alive. It's good. I'm okay. And then I drank the next half the next day. I'm like, well, if I survived half yesterday, let's try it again. So I drank some more. And then on the 3rd day, I'm like, okay, let's see if we can drink like the whole package. Like, let's do that. So the amazing thing that happened is like, I was still feeling like you know, my life was debilitating. I still couldn't get out of bed. I was working full time. I would come home, I would go to sleep. I had no energy. My dizziness, like all the things were still there. But I had this glimmer of hope in this, you know, in this really cool box that I got. And on the third day, I drank the whole package. I got it down. I'm like, okay, we're good. We're good. And it was crazy because that evening I was like, I should cook supper. And I know, okay, we usually all we think that thought, but that was the first time I thought that thought in like 5 years. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll cook supper, I guess. And I started cooking supper, and my little guy, he's like, Mom, can we carve pumpkins? And I'm like, oh my gosh, the mess, right? Like, and you just feel the heavy and the tired and all the things. And he's like, well, Mom, seriously, we'll clean up the mess. Can we just do it? I'm like, yes. And that was something that was super hard. Being an exhausted mom that wasn't feeling good is any holiday, Christmas time, Easter time, my kids had to decorate the tree. If they wanted a tree, they had to decorate the tree because I couldn't get out of bed to do it. If my kids wanted to do pumpkins, they had to do it themselves. If they wanted to do Easter eggs, my kids did it themselves. When it was like birthday times, my kids cooked each other birthday cakes. Their mom couldn't do it. So that was like the horriblest part of being like the debilitation part is like you don't get to be a mom. Like you don't get to be anything, but like not being a mom sucks when you have like 5 babies relying on you. And like it was so hard when, you know, my oldest was a girl, and like, you know, to hear her be like, Mom, it's so hard, I'm like raising these kids and I can't get out of bed. So that night my little guy's like, I'll carve the pumpkins, Mom, and I'll clean it up. And I'm like, okay. And he brought me the insides of the pumpkin, and I was making supper, and I cleaned the pumpkin seeds and I like roasted them for him. And I was like, I'm going to make my lunch for tomorrow for work. And I did that. And I was like laying in bed that night, and I'm like, how did that happen? Like, how did I cook my kids' supper? How did I roast their, like, you know, pumpkin seeds for them? Like, how did this happen? And I'm like thinking, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, was it that like ninja stuff that they were talking about? Like they said it was like good for energy. And I'm like, really? And then I got scared because I'm like, I have no more. Like, what do I do? I'm like, where do you, like, how do I get it? And I'm like, I don't want to not feel like this tomorrow. And so like 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm like texting Dora and I'm phoning Diane. I'm like, somebody needs, like, do you guys have stuff that's called like Ninja or something? Because I need to have it. And Diane, she's like, I have some, but I'm like in my house coat. I'm like, I don't care if you're naked. I'm just there for your Ninja. I'm like, just give me some. So it's like 8 o'clock in the morning on her doorstep before I had to go to work. And she gave me some Ningxia, and I like took it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, probably about 5 days, and my dizziness started going away. My eyesight started coming back. And the more I drank it and the more I took it, and I would take 2 ounces in the morning and I would take another 2 ounces at 1 o'clock. And my dizziness is gone. I have energy to keep up with my kids. I'm like, you guys have your mama back. Like, let's go bike riding. Let's go camping. Let's go to the beach. Let's do all the things. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, my anxiety like went from up here to like down here. The heart palpitations, it's like, you know, I was in emergency, I don't know how many times, thinking I was having a heart attack, and they're like, girl, you're still crazy, just go home. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I don't have those anymore. Those are gone. I'm like, so, and with the depression, the cool thing is, like, when you feel like you have that depression, it's such a big, heavy black darkness over you all the time. Like, that cleared up. It went away. My thoughts are much, much clearer. I'm just like, I never go without it at all. Like Tabby said, right? Like, okay, if you don't have it and you run out, you're like knocking on friends' doors. So it's like, we don't have to share, thank goodness. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. So I've been with Young Living for 2 years now. And so obviously at that time when I was started the Ningxia was at Halloween. That's like my marker. So that'll be like my 2 years. I got my kit like 2 years ago, but it took me that long before I tried the Ningxia and stuff like that. Was at Halloween. And so basically a year and a half, and here I am. I have like hopes and dreams, and my babies have their mama, and I have my babies, and they don't have to raise each other, and we don't eat Honey Nut Cheerios anymore. And I'm just like, so I'm like so grateful that I was, introduced to all of this, the oils, the Ningxia, the everything. It's a game changer. We have it all the time in the house. We throw it in the freezer for the kids. I used to be very possessive of it when I first started because, being a single mom and having to watch your pennies and stuff, right? I'm like, no, your mommy needs that right now. Don't touch that. That's like your mom. And now, because I do Young Living as a business, I'm like, all the things, all the Ningxia, I'm like, throw it in the freezers. You guys can have it. My 5 kids drink it all the time. And I'm just like, super win. I'm like, get to be a mom. Yes. So that's me.
Yay, no, so good. Those are huge, huge wins. I know what anxiety is like, and it's debilitating. Also, what you said about getting your Ningxia Red paid for, if you order on Essential Rewards, you can pretty much get your Ningxia Red for free, or if you share with a friend or two. Because I have to say, none of these people would have these testimonies or would have these life-changing things if someone didn't care enough to share. Because oh my gosh, I cannot imagine if someone didn't share Young Living with me. So be a friend, because you will change somebody's life. Okay, next up we have Tracy. Tracy's gonna talk with us. Hi, Tracy. You got it?
There, got it.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks
Well, that was very touching. Boy, what a story. I'm going to tell you a little bit different. I'm going to tell you the backwards way. I started using a few Young Living products because my daughter Lauren started doing Young Living 2 years ago, and I wanted to support her. So I think the first thing we obviously started with was Thieves cleaning products. So we were removing a little bit of toxins out of our house, and it just made sense. And then in January, Lauren took me to an event in Kelowna, and I listened to a video that I think everybody should listen to. And that's the one called A Wake Up Story. And it really talked about what if the toxins in our life are what's causing all of the things to happen, the illnesses that we have. And it didn't say it was, it just said what if, and it gets you thinking. So in January, Lauren once again said to me, Mom, you should try this Ningxia. You really should just give it a try. And she let me taste it before, and it was warm, and it was just, I didn't really, it didn't taste really good to me to begin with. And I didn't really read up on it. I just thought, oh, another drink, right? You know, you hear of lots of those things out there. And so she put a drop of lime in it, and it was cold, and I took a 2-ounce shot, and I thought, wow, this tastes really good. So I had no preconceived ideas as to what this was going to do for me at all. But I said to her, look, Lauren, I've got some free points from some of the products I've been buying, got a couple of bottles of Ningxia, and I said, I'm going to give it a try. I'll try it for 30 days and I'll see what it does for me. But I had to take my husband along on that. If I'm going to do it, you're doing it too story. So I came home and I said, that's it. Every morning we're doing a shot of Ningxia. We'll do it with a little bit of lime in it, and let's just see what it does for us. Let's take an assessment of what's aching, what's hurting, how we're feeling, where our energy level is. Let's just every morning, let's assess while we're having our shot and boiling the water for tea. And so that's what we did. The background story is, though, that 6 years before that, I had just finished treatments for cancer. So in February of 2013, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had, in total, I had 3 tumors. It was invasive and rapidly growing. It was in my lymph nodes. And I went through a surgery. Then I went through 4 months of radiation, or pardon me, chemotherapy. Then I did another surgery. And then I went through 2 months of radiation, 28 treatments in all. I did quite an aggressive chemotherapy. I think because it was in my lymph nodes, those are the filters to your body. I had an actual tumor in my lymph nodes, so they could tell that the cancer cells had spread through my body, and they were really trying to rapidly attack those. I received a treatment every 3 weeks. It was an all-day treatment. They put it through a port in my, just underneath my collarbone. It was too strong a chemotherapy that it would have destroyed the veins in my arms had they done it through that. And I went through just a terrible process of that. So in December of 2013, I finished all my treatments. I finished my final surgery, and I was on a slow road to recovery. Now, they said that, you know, things would slowly heal, your body would get back to normal. But after cancer, there's a new normal. It's not ever going to be the same. You suffer with side effects from all of those treatments, and I wouldn't have not done any of the treatments because I believe that, you know, they've come a long way in treating cancer, and you really have to do those things. But the radiation and the chemotherapy do take their toll on your body. And then I was also on a drug, a post-active treatment drug to lower estrogen levels in the body so that the cancer doesn't reoccur. And I'm on that drug today. So I will always take that and increase my chances of being here and being able to share life with my children and my grandchildren. I'm going to do it. But I had terrible muscle and joint pain. I didn't sleep very well at all. And that was also from the drug that I was still on, which is, I'm sure some of you have heard of them, letrozole or tamoxifen. I'd kind of done some of all of that. It causes heartburn. It causes severe joint pain. Your energy is just so low. You can barely get through a day of work and you're just exhausted. Again, your sleep, your skin isn't good, heartburn, your digestive system. And then I was also suffering from a severe pain in my side where I had probably received the most radiation treatment. And it was like a stabbing pain, like somebody was poking you with a knife. And it would happen to me, it could happen even as much as twice a day, where it would just take your breath away. You'd have to hold your side and let it subside, and then you could carry on. So in January, I started on Ningxia, not knowing anything of what it was going to do for me. And within 3 days of starting on it, I could honestly feel that my joints were easing up. The pain was not there as much. And it just progressively got better and better. My energy level after 2 weeks, I could feel it starting to get better. And I was taking 2 ounces first thing in the morning. And I believe it was taking the toxins further out of my system. And here's an example. When you go through chemotherapy, my cancer doctor, my surgeon said to me that they could test my blood, my body, a year later, and they could still detect chemo in my system. That's how strong it was. And it takes that long to get out of your system. Well, I was 6 years past it, and there was pain. There was issues still there. And I was living with it because I'm happy to be alive. But after a month of Ningxia, to be sleeping better, to not have heartburn. I went from taking probably, I would say 5 to 10 Tums a week just to go to bed at night because the heartburn was so bad. I think in 6 months, I might have taken 2 since January, and that is it. That means 2 tablets in the whole 6 months. So even that part feels better. My muscle and joint pain is almost completely gone. I feel like all my body systems are working the way they're supposed to be. My body has been allowed to heal beyond cancer treatment in ways I never thought it could. I feel like my metabolism kicked in. I had the energy at night after I finished a long day of work. I made dinner for my family, and I could still have enough energy to go out to see my animals or go for a walk or start a new project, refinishing furniture. And I still felt great. I still felt like I'd come in and I'd have more energy. And it was just amazing. I had always been very intentional about what I ate. I ate healthy. We raise our own vegetables and we raise our own meat here. So we still ate very healthy, very lean, very low carb. But I wasn't able to lose the weight that I had gained from chemotherapy and radiation treatments. And today, I am actually 28 pounds lighter than I was in January. And I haven't changed my diet at all since January. I just feel better. I feel like my body is able to function the way it's supposed to feel and work. And like I said, I'm still taking letrozole now. I will be for 4 more years. And letrozole is a drug that stops your body from, from producing estrogen. And estrogen is, because my cancer was estrogen positive, it means that it feeds off of estrogen in my body. So what they're trying to do is if there are cancer cells in my body still, they're trying to starve them. The cool part about Ningxia is that the wolfberry actually has an estrogen mimicker in it. So plant-based, so it's not the same as our estrogen in our body. It mimics and it works together with the letrozole. So I almost have like a double effect on fighting off the possibility of my cancer feeding off of estrogen. So pretty cool. And I am hooked. 30 days later, I was never going off of Ningxia again. I did add sulfurzyme, which again has that wolfberry, but it really equalizes the water pressures in your joints. And so that even made my joints feel better. So combination of those two, I'm staying on those forever. But my healthy husband had always been a little bit fighting with the weight. And I guess as we get older in our 50s, it's harder and harder to keep that weight off. So here he was doing Ningxia with me, still staying his same active, eating the same way he is. And he's 20 pounds lighter than he was too in January. So it's been a win-win for a healthy guy too. So we're hooked. We love it. I am so happy to share it with other people. I never, at the point when I was going through cancer, wanted somebody to tell me why I got cancer. But if they can make me feel or make someone else feel better post-cancer, I am so happy to share this with them. Thanks.
Oh my goodness, Tracy. Oh, so good. I am so happy for everybody here that is feeling like such a difference. Like if this just helps one person like that much, that game changer. Like, oh my gosh. Can you also post where that video is? Is it, you said, what if? Is that what it was called?
Yes, Jolene posted it on her site too.
Okay, I'll track it down.
It's hers, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so happy for you. Okay, next up we have Kelly. Where are you, girl? Kelly?
Hi.
There you are.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So thank you. Wow, great stories, everybody. And I can relate to all of them. They're all awesome. So anyways, I've had a lot of wins with Young Living. Ningxia has been one of my biggest ones. So about 7 years ago, I got vertigo. I was really dizzy, sick for a while. I went to the doctor. There was nothing they could do for me. So I got referred to a specialist, and she came from Vernon to help me out. And she told me there's 2 different kinds of vertigo. There's one there where they can do maneuvers to help you out, to get rid of it. And then there's another type of vertigo that you have to live with for the rest of your life. And that's the type I had. So I was dizzy every day for over 4 years. And I just lived with it. It was just what I lived with. And then I was using Young Living, and Tabitha was having a great Ningxia info night, and I went and listened to her, learned lots of information. So I thought I would try Ningxia, not for my vertigo, didn't relate the two. So I tried it, and after day 3, my vertigo disappeared. I didn't notice it till about day 5. That I wasn't dizzy, so I thought that's great. So it has never come back since. No dizziness, no nothing. So that's great. What else? So I continue with it, 2 to 4 ounces every day. It helps with my energy. Also have early signs of arthritis, so if I don't miss it, I don't have any muscle and joint pain. I'm better focused, and it helps with bowel movements. So that's a good win. So yeah, I just want to say, everybody, try it for 30 days and see what you think, because it works. It really works. That's it. Mine's short.
Oh my gosh, Kelly. Amazing. Amazing. That's huge though. Like, who can walk around dizzy every day? Like, to do that for the rest of your life, that's huge. It's huge. Yeah. Amazing. Crazy good stories. Oh my gosh. Okay, Miranda is up next. She is going to share an amazing story with you all. Hi, Miranda.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hi. Well, my name is Miranda, as Lisa just said, and I am a mom of 10 and a grandma to 1, and I'm just going to I'm so excited to be a grandma. I'm just going to share about one of our little guys. I had twins, number 8 are twins, and one of our twins was born with a really severe heart defect, and he has had 2 open heart surgeries and 6 other heart surgeries that were due to complications, and 2 other surgeries due to other complications. And what has happened is, during these surgeries, it's created quite the storm inside his body. And one of the things that ended up happening was his left diaphragm is completely paralyzed. And the other thing that has happened is his vagus nerve is completely damaged. And so what this caused us is 5 years of a child that puked 4 to 5 times a day. And he puked constantly, and it didn't matter what we did. It was horrible to go through. We tried numerous medications. He had tons of GI studies, because one of the issues with vagus nerve damage is slow motility, and where you eat and then your body just kind of shuts down and food doesn't move through your system. Everything was coming back normal. So even though we were having all these tests, they were all saying nothing's wrong. Yet we had this child that just vomited. The second you put food in, it all came out. So he is completely tube fed. And it was just the hardest thing to see this child just not be able to hold anything inside. And things that I started doing a ton of stuff with him. I'm just a mom that was on a mission with Google. Google became my friend. And when oils and all this kind of came into our world, I was researching everything under the sun. And Ningxia kind of just, like a lot of you, I just started using it. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have I hope this works for this. It was, this is good for him. I'm just going to put 60 mils in his G tube every day and see what happens. So I also do a lot of other things with him, but the timing of things, it can't just be coincidence. So one of the things that we noticed is his vomiting stopped after ton of meds, like tons meds that needed approved by Health Canada because of his heart defect. He wasn't able to take, and we had to take these risks of trying them, which resulted in monthly ECGs because they were so dangerous for his actual heart defect. So doing this 60 mils a day, the vomiting started to stop. And the more I started to research what was actually in Ningxia, is there's tangerine oil in it, and tangerine oil actually heals nerves. And like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm just a mom, and I'm looking at it going, well, he has this vagus nerve damage, tangerine oil heals nerve issues. I don't know, but it worked. We're just like, we're thrilled. The other thing that some heart kids have an issue with is their sodium levels are really wonky, and it causes a whole bunch of issues. And Ningxia also balances sodium levels. And heart kids have to have their fluids really balanced, because when you have heart disease and you're in heart failure, so he lives with heart failure, and so that's like water will build up, so we have to balance fluid intake and stuff. And Ningxia, with that sodium in there, helps balance all that out. We've had no issues in 3 years with his heart failure. It's mind-blowing. And there's just been so many things that have supported his little body with these tools that have doctors dumbfounded at Children's Hospital. Like it's actually unbelievable when you have this medically complex little guy that he's so fragile in what they can use and what they try, and you have these tools in your home. It's hard not to want to share just how powerful they are. And to be totally honest, I was offended at the suggestion of oils for him, and I kick myself every single day that I scoffed at the suggestion, because I held back so much healing inside his body for too long. So I just I love sharing this stuff, because we tried so much for so long, and just something so simple. And I know there's so many people out there that could benefit from this stuff, and just try it. Just try it and see what happens. That's it.
The miracles, all the miracles. I just feel like, what? Amazing. Miranda, I think I've probably said amazing 300 times. Not distracted over here at all, but thank you everyone for sharing, like, what powerful stories. And honestly, if you can just help one person by telling them about oils, about Ningxia, it's worth sharing, because as we can see, just this one supplement, this one product will change so many lives in profound ways. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure that we can share this with many more people, and thank goodness it's recorded. And thank you again for everyone being on here and being here today and sharing and loving all the things. Thanks, Tabby, too, for all that awesome information. Have a good night, you guys.